Welcome back, welcome back. This summer, the eyes of the world will be on South Africa as it hosts the Soccer World Cup. But it's a story of a different World Cup in South Africa, the 1995 Rugby World Cup, that was truly worthy of a Hollywood script. So much so that it has now been turned into the new film Invictus, directed by Clint Eastwood. The film follows the South African rugby team on their journey to the Rugby World Cup final and their eventual victory against the odds. But it's so much more than a sports film because it also traces President Mandela's plans to unite a racially divided nation through rugby. And the man he asked to do this was Francois Pienaar, the South African rugby captain, who joins me now. But first of all, here's a clip from the film.
I remember when I was invited to the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona. Everybody in the stadium greeted me with a song. At the time, the future, our future, seemed very bleak. But to hear that song in the voices of people from all over our planet made me proud to be South African. It inspired me to come home and do better. It allowed me to expect more of myself.
May I ask, what was the song, sir?
Well, it was in Sikilele, Africa. A very inspiring song. We need inspiration, Francois, because in order to build our nation, we must all exceed our own expectations.
Morgan Freeman there as Nelson Mandela, and playing Francois Pienaar, Matt Damon. First question, did you like his portrayal of you? Francois?
Well, it's quite weird. It's bizarre if you sit in a movie theater and look at yourself on the screen played by such an amazing actor. There's certain things that I really enjoyed, but there's certain things that I wouldn't really do in real life. The part that I really enjoyed was where Matt Damon goes to Robben Island and he walks into Mandela's cell. And that is very close to the truth. I became very emotional when I watched it in Los Angeles at the premiere. We had my two boys with us, Jean and Stefan, who's 10 and 12. And the tears were rolling down my cheeks when I watched this scene because I remembered how I felt when I walked into Mandela's cell on Robben Island and I stretched out my hands and I could touch the walls. And I just thought of this man sitting in this small space for 27 years. He was 17 years on Robben Island and 27 years in jail. And he came out of jail and he had forgiveness in his heart and he had humility in his heart. So that scene was, for me, a very emotional scene. But there's certain other scenes in the movie, especially the change room scenes, that I thought was a bit soft. But, you know, that's Hollywood license for you.
Yeah. And Robben Island, as you say, that cell, I remember, you can't forget seeing that cell, can you? I know the size of it, about 7 foot square, wasn't it? And as you say, he was there for 17 years and so on. And so, how was the tea? Did you know what the agenda was going to be? Did you know by then what Nelson Mandela wanted you to do?
No, I didn't. I didn't know what to expect. I was incredibly nervous because the president asked me to come and have tea, and I didn't know what he was going to ask me. I didn't know what I was going to say and how I should reply. I was sitting in the foyer waiting for my appointment with Madiba. We call Mandela Madiba in South Africa. And his booming voice came through the doors, and the doors opened, and there he was. And he called me on my first name, Francois, and gave me a hug and said, "How are you?" Immediately I felt at ease, and the next hour my chat with Madiba was incredibly special. You know, I left his office being so optimistic about the future of South Africa, and I felt that I just sat there with a very wise old man, and he gave me wonderful insight into his world and his expectancy of South Africa.
And I mean, the moment later on when you first saw him, first glimpsed him in a Springbok shirt, that must have been a great moment too.
Yeah, that's a moment that they don't actually have in the movie. I was sitting in the changing room just before the final. And when you're in the changing room before the biggest game of your life, there's so many things that's rushing through your head and through your veins. Incredibly nervous, very tense, very emotional. And there was a knock on the door of our changing room, and the door opened, and in walked Madiba, and he wore a Springbok on his heart. I mean, that was just so powerful. I think it gave us an edge. It gave us an edge. And when he just said good luck, and when he turned around, there was a number 6 on his back, and I was incredibly emotional. You would see that I didn't sing the anthem because I was I was too emotional. I knew I would cry. I was just so proud to be a South African. And when I looked to my right and my teammates were singing the anthem, the tears were rolling down their cheeks. It was a very, very special occasion where, for the first time, everybody in South Africa, any color, any creed, any religion in South Africa, were very proud of one moment where they all became world champions.
And the number 6 was your number, wasn't it, on the shirt that he was wearing?
Yes, I played in number 6 during the World Cup. I've played number 6 my whole life.
All your life. And what has been your life really since the great moment that's depicted in that film? You've really stayed. You ran rugby clubs and things for a few years, didn't you? I mean, here in London and elsewhere.
Yeah, I always said right after the World Cup that it was such a special moment in our history that if Hollywood had the opportunity to write a script about South Africa, given our embarrassing past and how sport can overcome all these things and heal a nation, Hollywood would not have been able to write a better script. And I was blown away when John Carlin phoned me, who wrote Playing the Enemy, the book on which the movie is based on, and he said to me that Hollywood's actually thinking of writing a movie about 95, and I didn't really believe him. Now it's all history. It's captivated on the big screen. My life, rugby will always be part of my life, and sport will always be part of my life. I came to London, lived in London for just over 6 years. Really enjoyed it, a fascinating city, and met some unbelievable people. I'm still involved with the Saracens, and we're doing fairly well this year. We're second on the log. That adrenaline junkie in me is still alive. But my life, has moved beyond rugby. I'm in business now, and trying to carve out a future for my family and myself.
And in terms of the relationship, which was a special one between Nelson Mandela and you, Madiba, as you say, have you kept in touch, in fact?
Indeed, Madiba came to our wedding. One of the most amazing stories that I keep telling people when they ask me about his humility was, after we won the World Cup, we had a dinner at the Union Building in Pretoria. Madiba invited everybody to a state banquet in honor of the Springboks. And early on in that evening, as he arrived, I walked up to him and I said, Madiba, I'm getting married in January. Would you please come and say hi to or would you mind if I introduce my fiancée? And I mentioned her name once. I said, Nareen, would you mind if I come and introduce Nareen to you? And he said, no problem whatsoever. I actually forgot about it. And as the evening went along, later on, Madiba walked to our table with all his security guards. And I stood up and he walked straight to Nareen. He took her hand and he said to her, Nareen, will you feel offended if I come to your wedding? That's just just the humility of the man. He came to our wedding. He phoned us when our children were born in London. And as recently as November, Madiba called me to come and have tea, and it was just the two of us. And we sat there for an hour. I was privileged enough just to hold his hand and to chat to him. It was just the two of us, and shared some thoughts. We've been incredibly blessed in South Africa to have had a leader like him.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely, undeniably true. Francois, thank you very much for being with us. It's a delight to have you with us. We hope to see you in the studio in London sometime soon, but all the best with the film, and perhaps a major film career is starting right now. Thanks very much, Francois.
Thank you, Sir David.
Now, was Eva Braun the real power behind the Third Reich? Did she have more influence than we think? Find out after this short break.